Hey, everybody. So I think they just announced that we're in a recession. I mean, I think we all kind of knew that anyway, but apparently it's official now. So we're going to talk about what you should be doing in business when we're in a recession, or at least attempt to. So
The second
we,
of your business.
yeah, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but the kingdom of heaven is not in a recession. So we just have to, it's a mindset issue like anything else. We can't look at what everybody else is looking at all the time, or we will miss opportunities. And there are always opportunities in recessions and depressions. I know Alice was saying, what were you saying earlier about the history?
But I've always heard the statistic, and I don't know. I'm sure at some point in time in the more recent history, it is no longer accurate just because so many millionaires and billionaires have kind of, with the dot-com craze and all that kind of stuff since then. But before that, I always heard that there were more millionaires that were created, or more people became millionaires during the Great Depression than at any other point in time in history. And that statistic held until I think the 80s or 90s. So that so even when, and we tend to think that everybody in the Great Depression, or everybody in the recession, or of even like 2008, which was kind of the last time we had a major recession or economic downturn, we tend to think that that hugely affects everybody, and it doesn't. So there are areas of the economy that are affected when those events happen, and then there are other areas of the economy that are going crazy and increasing. And we saw that most recently, even with COVID, that there were some businesses, and that didn't seem to be as industry specific as far as I've observed, as much as it was if you were able to pivot and do things online, do things if you already had like a newsletter that you were keeping up with, for like brick and mortar more type businesses. So you could reach out to them and still offer them, like, pizza places had pizza kits where like you could come and take stuff home and cook. So they were still having income. They were still able to have employees. If they were able to make those pivots, then they did very, very well, versus others that weren't able to, or didn't, or, for whatever reason, then, there have been a large number of businesses that have closed in the last couple of years, and probably that will continue. But I think it isn't doesn't have to be your story. Like, that's a statistic and it's probably a reality, but that doesn't have to be your reality or your statistic. So as Seneca said, the kingdom of heaven is never in a recession. So it is always increasing and growing, and has great things for us. So if we're tapped in to the kingdom of heaven, then we are good to go.
Yeah, I was thinking about 2022. I mean, I was wondering how many people really boomed during that time, because I did. I mean, nothing massive, but
Yeah,
probably got millionaires out of that time too.
I'm sure. So, and that's this year is, I can't remember the exact, like, this year will be better than that year for me, but that was the best year to date in my business.
Same.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not, and that was because I pivoted and did something completely kind of outside of my usual thing, but it was something that met a need that people had at the time. And that was something that, I asked God, okay, here's the situation. What do you want me to do? So, because clearly seeing people in person was not going to be a thing for a while. And even here in Texas, it was not going to be a thing. So, and we just didn't know how long that was going to be. So.
Right. Yeah, nobody knew anything in the beginning. It was really hard to, say, okay, I'm going to do something different and totally new, when you think maybe in a week or two you could be back to business as usual.
Yeah. And fortunately, like, that, you know, what God gave me to do, it was something that I could pivot and do, and I could also pivot back. It didn't require like a huge restructuring of
Yeah.
everything. So and it ended up being, you know, later that year, October, November, that I kind of, you know, that those sales trickled off and the other things that I do picked up. And so it worked out perfectly. So, and that's the kind of thing I think, and that's like, I literally just, okay, God, you know, what do I have in my hands? I think was the exact thing that I asked. You know, what do I have in my hands that I can use to make it through this time? So, and I had everything. I eventually had to order more supplies, but I had everything that I needed to get started right
Yeah.
then. Like, you know, even packaging stuff. It was just, and it was kind of like, oh, there was this from this project over here, and there was this from this project. I mean, like all these random kind of things that came together. I was able to do this thing, sell it, and, you know, made good money. So,
I think that's the key right there is, you know, what do you already have? Because you're
mhm,
always set up. God always sets you up.
mhm,
And we tend to make it hard and we look at all these things and we go, well, if I can get this, you know,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
If you're in a jam, you probably already have everything you need. So
mhm,
what is it? You just
yeah,
need your eyes opened up.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I think there's God has such infinite creativity of how to do things and to do things well, to support you and to help you. So, and if just like for me, that was just to get over the hump and then, you know, kind of work on, and in, you know, during that time for my core businesses, I was working on developing some things, and you know, I was still working on those. That just wasn't where my primary income was coming. So when I came out of that, I was also set up in those businesses to continue to grow, and I'm still reaping the fruit of that now. So and you know, my, like I said, my this will be this, um unless everything just dies, which I don't expect, it's just been gradually increasing, and this should be my best year ever. So and double some years that I've had. So that's and in, you know, a recession period of time. So, but some practical things I think we were going to talk about as far as um, kind of things in the natural that you can start looking at while you're waiting, because I think sometimes it helps to have something to focus. Okay, how can I do this? And then just continue to be open to, so you're active listening, I guess, is
Yeah.
you're not just being passive and saying, okay, well, you know,
Right.
um, random checks do come in the mail for people. I've never gotten one, but but that isn't, I don't think that that's the primary way that God answers. He provides opportunities for you. So
Right.
so be looking for those that require effort on your part. Um, but
You
so
have to say yes. Yeah.
yeah. So so what are some things that you recommend people get started with specifically?
Specifically, well, we know Revelation. We kind of touched on that a little bit, but really, you know, I had a dream the night before last, and there's business strategy in that. So I need to
Mhm.
get my butt in gear and do that. And it's nothing hard. It's what I've always done, but I've slacked off on it. And he's just saying, hey, you know.
Remember that thing I told you to do?
Yes, yes. You were doing really good when you were doing that. Keep doing that. You
Right.
know, that's another thing is we find something that works and then we want to go off and find more things that work. So then we
Mhm.
neglect the thing that actually does work.
Yeah.
That, yeah, that's what's going on. And, you know, something else that we can do is go over our business expenses. I don't know about everybody
Mhm.
else, but I have all these things that I pay for by the month or the year, and it's just a subscription. And, you know,
Mhm.
I just I'm on autopilot with it. Everything works when I have it, so I just keep it and that's that. But, there are all these other little companies that come up in that span of time that you've probably been on that thing, and maybe they have a cheaper plan with the features that you need and not all the other stuff that you don't use and are paying
Yeah.
for.
Or it's something that's a more comprehensive thing. So you buy this one thing and you can get rid of 5 others, and
Right.
both reduce your costs as well as simplify your process. So in the
Yeah.
long run, it's never simple in in the short run to switch, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a drag going over all your financial statements and stuff
Mhm.
and looking at all that and chopping around and
Yeah.
if it saves you money and lets you operate the same way, then great.
Yeah.
It's
Or
probably
or
something.
operate better even sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because especially depending on how long it is that you've had something, like Seneca said, people are coming up with new innovative ways of helping you with your business that
Yeah.
can do a much better job than what you're currently doing. So,
Well, and I started my business in the last recession, 2008. So,
mhm.
well, I started it when I was 5, but officially, with like stuff and quality.
Yep.
So I've been doing some things the same way for a long time. And
Mhm.
it's always good to look at that, whether you're in a recession or not.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think sometimes those kind of economic wobbles are just kind of indicators. So to say, oh, reminders. But yeah, you're right. I think that's something that we should probably be doing, every year or at least every two
Yeah.
years in our business, and take a look and say, okay, and maybe that's something you need to do every the end of every year or whatever. So, but
Yeah.
not
Not
that
a
we're
fun use of
suggesting that
my
you
time.
completely revolutionize your way of doing business every year. No, we're not saying that. Just,
No.
is there one area, one thing, one new tool that you can
Yeah.
adopt that's going to help streamline, simplify, and make things, reduce your overhead costs or whatever.
Well, and there's probably things that, as you change stuff and how you do it and how you grow, you're still having to look back and go, okay, what is this actually doing for me that
Yeah.
I'm paying for every month?
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes those costs just increase, especially if you're on a subscription or something, then they keep bumping up the price and bumping up the price. And then you're like, okay, well, it was worth it for me at $30 a month, but it's
Right.
not worth it for me at $200 a month. I can do
Right.
this other thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think also looking at the other types of kind of client facing processes in your business, are there ways that you can streamline those so that you can keep, even with the inflation going up, which is also um, a factor currently, that you're able to keep your costs down because you've simplified that process, so it's not taking as much of your time or materials or whatever it is in your business, so you're um, streamlining that process on the customer end of things as well. So,
Yeah.
so you,
Well, and on that note, how can you save other people money?
mhm,
Not that you need to run a sale or cut your profits or anything like that, but is there a way that
mhm,
you can come up with a new way of doing things, a new product, a new service, or something that is going to save other people money? Therefore, it's very attractive to them in a downturn.
yeah,
And I think Alice has figured that out, but other than just reframing how I advertise, I'm saving people money over, maybe they lost their insurance and they don't have ADHD medication anymore,
mhm,
or they don't have insurance to pay for that, or whatever it is. I'm cheaper than that.
yeah,
So I could start promoting in that direction possibly if I'm
mhm,
careful with the FDA wording
right.
and
That dance you have to do.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And I think also kind of like what we said at the beginning, not everybody is as affected by this. So part of it is knowing your customer base.
Mhm.
Who are your customers, and are they a group that's affected by this, or are they not? So if they're not, if they're in kind of the customer base that's really booming with things, then maybe you need to do the reverse and come up with higher ticket items, or more ways for people to spend money with you, so that are going to be of value and benefit to them. So obviously
Mhm.
that are going to meet a need, that because I think that segment of the population isn't going to get the press because they're doing good. So the
Yeah.
news isn't going to cover the people doing good.
That is not the media's job.
Yeah, no, no.
The
So
fear users.
yeah, yeah. So um but in that, that could be a positioning change, or offering a higher tier, more done for you type of service, or that
Well,
kind of.
you're doing higher tier, but you're saving them money.
Yeah, that for me, yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
yeah,
win-win.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's other than getting, like, it comes down to me being able to communicate clearly the benefits to people. That is the downside, because it's, for me, it's a much higher ticket item. For them, it's a much lower ticket item than what's currently out there, so far as I've been able to discover, and still a very high quality product, doing, and partly because I've simplified. So just like we were talking about before, part of what I've done is, if you're doing this thing for this purpose, you don't need these other things that is what you're paying for when you purchase this super high ticket thing. So, well, if you don't need that, then I won't provide it, and I'm not going to charge you for it. So, it's a win-win. You're not paying for something you don't need, whereas you are getting the benefit of the thing that you do need and you do want. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
um I'll probably report back later on how how that goes. So, but
Yeah.
we're still
So, yeah, I think to sum up, we're looking for the opportunities and we're keeping our eyes on heaven's economy and not the news.
hmm yeah.
Although you can definitely, it's worth it to stay in touch with what's going on so you can provide the right solutions for people too.
hmm yeah, and I think for you kind of have to just see, um that has to be your tolerance. There are some people that can't handle, the news. And so you just need to, like, talk to a friend who watches the news, who can give you the highlight reel.
Yeah.
So, or, kind of be in touch with some of the other business type people that um,
Get in a mastermind.
mhm,
Yeah, because they'll have ideas.
yeah. And then you can brainstorm with each other,
Hmm.
so, on things that you can do, and everybody has a different perspective, which is good. So,
That's what I love about our foundations class is
mhm, yeah,
everybody's chiming in with ideas.
yeah, and nobody's doing the same thing. So
Right.
that's the strength. That isn't the downside. So, and so often you're like, well, I need, a whole group of people doing exactly what you're doing. No, you just need people that are,
No, because then everybody's in their little box about it.
mhm, yeah, yeah. There have been multiple times on the calls where people have said, well, why don't you try this? And it's like something from their arena that does apply directly, but you would never have thought of it if you were just sticking over here, because that's not what you do. So, but it works fabulously. So, yeah, definitely getting input from a variety of sources is,
Yeah. Now, if you don't have something like that, we have something like that. You're welcome to join us.
absolutely,
Supernaturalbiz.com.
absolutely. So,
Our little plug there.
yeah. Yep. And we talk a lot about all of this in the class. So
Mm.
this is our goal, is to help business owners like you to survive and thrive during difficult times. So, because regardless of a recession or not, businesses go through difficult times. So, um,
Right.
but they don't have to be as difficult if you're if you're paying attention to what
Yeah.
God has you to do. They don't have to be as difficult as
Yeah.
otherwise. So, yeah. So, all righty. Well, we'll talk to y'all next time.